Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the challenges of leading a growing church while trying to maintain a healthy balance in personal and family life? You're not alone. Every pastor faces the tension of expanding their ministry without losing themselves or their loved ones in the process. Welcome to another episode of the Believe Again podcast. I am your host, Josh Robery, and I'm joined by a very special co-host today, Amy Robery. Amy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Josh, and hello, everyone.
It's only taken me the entire season to get you to do this, but we finally got you on an episode.
You did, and I think it says a lot about who our guests are today that I was able to join.
Oh, I love how you made that segue. So I'm very happy to have Amy on here. I have been trying to get her to be on the podcast the entire season, and here we are on the final episode of this season. We finally got her on here, so I'm very, very glad to have you, Amy. And the Believe Again podcast, I think it's been a good season so far. What have you thought about this season?
It's been fantastic. Yeah, I really have loved the encouragement that it's brought to church planners and pastors, and really have appreciated the focus of this season, that it's been something that could be a resource to church planners.
Yeah, that's really been our goal, is to provide a resource that's dedicated to inspiring, challenging, and equipping church planners with stories of grit and thought-provoking insights in life and leadership. And so it was really your encouragement before the season kicked off to make it super practical, to focus on church planning. And we went all in with that. And I think it's been a really, really good idea. And we're going to end with that as well. And this episode is going to be really special as we hear from a dynamic duo, Josh and Kara Joins. When you think of Josh and Kara Joins, what comes to mind?
Well, I immediately think of incredible people, amazing pastors, just what God has done through them there in Baytown, Texas, outside of Houston at Faith Family Church. It's really cool for me because, and I think for you, because, our time of being a part of ARC and helping church planners really coincides with the timeline of Josh and Kara launching their church. But when I think about Josh and Kara, specifically Kara, I just honestly think about a lot of fun. Kara is one of the most encouraging friends, fun friends, and then she's also an incredible leader. And so I am always so inspired by her leadership and the leadership that she provides in her church, in her home, in her family, and in her community. And then to a lot of people like myself, I think around the country, I learn so much from her all the time. So I can't wait to have her on today.
Yeah, they've navigated this church planning journey for the past 9 years with grace and wisdom that I think sets them apart in so many ways. They've grown their church in 9 years to over 5,000 members in weekly attendance, and they also co-lead an organization called Cadency Coaching, a program specifically designed to help pastors like you listening to find a healthy rhythm in life and leadership. I've recommended so many people to Cadency. Anytime somebody asks me for coaching, is the first resource that I tell them to go to. And I'm very excited to have them on. And I know this episode could be a lifeline for some people who are looking for some inspiration, some hope, but also some practical things to help their life, leadership, and ministry. All right, Josh and Kara, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Believe Again podcast. We're so happy to have you with us. How are things in Baytown, Texas?
Good.
Things are great, Josh, and
guys.
great to be with you and Amy on this podcast. It's an honor.
Well, we're excited to hear from you. And one of the things we always like to kick off with is for our guests to share a favorite resource with us as we get started. So it could be just about anything, but something that's been beneficial to you.
Okay, I got one. I was thinking about, I actually shared this with someone in the past week. There's an app that you can get called Freedom. And this helps me because I can be a little distracted from time to time as I'm studying or as I'm working on some things. So this app, it also runs on your desktop, your phone, your iPad, all devices. It'll actually block out certain apps that you set ahead of time, like a time frame. So like no social media from 9 to noon, no ESPN, no nothing, and then that just kind of locks it out. So when I find myself, okay, I'm going to go over here. No, I can't. So it's been a great resource for me. I've been using it for a couple of years now.
So if you have ADD in any way, that would help you.
It does. It kind of keeps you on task.
I don't know if you have that, but
no, I don't. Technically, I don't. At least I don't think I do. I haven't been told that. But that's a great resource. It helps anybody that has to sit down and get things done and like crank something out. That social media, that phone, like it's such a distraction and it's just a time stealer. So anyway, it's helped me.
Yeah, it's good. I guess for me, this may sound canned a little bit, but we started with John Maxwell recently, and just, obviously he's got so many resources and podcasts and books, and he's just, been a great leader. So I like to listen to him.
Oh, that's awesome. Amy, what about you? Has there been an app or anything or podcast that you've been listening to lately?
So first of all, Josh, I need that freedom. I think I need that. So you said it's an app I can download. It can be on both my laptop and my phone. Okay. So
yes,
I got to remind myself I'm going to download that. So thank you for sharing. Love John Maxwell, but I listen to a lot of things, but there is a great podcast that's been very practical for me in my season of life, and it's called the Girl Mom Podcast. And so it is done by an amazing author and communicator speaker named Carrie Kampakis. So as a mom of 2 daughters, she has 4 daughters. She's got them ranging from 2 in college to her youngest in junior high. And so it's been really awesome to listen to her, and just so much wisdom. She's a believer, and it's encouraged me a lot as a mom.
Love that.
I like her Instagram posts because she posts these things that I just want to read to my daughters, and sometimes she posts it to boys, like boys. If you have boys, this is what you need to know how to treat a girl. If you're going to break up with her, if you're going to ask her out, if you're going to spend time with her. And it's just like, it's like wisdom you wish every kid had. So I'm glad you pointed
Carrie
that out.
Kampakis with a K, K-A-R-I, Carrie.
Carrie.
Well, Josh, you mentioned something about that app, the reason why you like it. And I think there's a leadership lesson tucked in there. So even before we get into your story, I think some of the greatest leaders that I've been around is they actually, they don't find ways to do more, but they find ways to limit themselves, and they thrive by being able to really say no to themselves. It's not, I'm so strong that I can do all this stuff. But actually, they've learned to say no to some things. And I think that's obviously part of your leadership, as I've watched you over the years, and the fact that you mentioned it here with that app being a practical way how you do that. Maybe talk a little bit about, both of you, how saying no and limiting yourself has been a way that you've been actually able to grow as a leader.
Yeah, it's a great thought, Josh. I think the greatest leadership assignment that any of us will ever be given is the assignment of leading ourselves. And it's hard to lead others when, you're having a difficult time leading your own self, managing your own time. And the word that I use a lot around our church and just in life in general is the word intentionality. Like when it comes to my schedule, I know that either I fill those 24 golden boxcars I've been given every day with what I need to put in there that will help me accomplish what God's called me to do, or someone's going to fill it for me. So, in order for me to be the best husband, father, pastor, coach, friend that I can be, I've got to be very selective with how I use this resource of energy that God's given me. I don't even think it's as much a time management issue as it is an energy management. But I know that, things need to be done and they're not going away. So how do I put the best part of who I am, and when I'm at my best, how do I put that to its best use? And, so I guard out blocks of my day in order to get those things done. And yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to go be distracted over here or go to the golf course more than I should. It's like, no. We got
even get into a meeting that
we've got some things, that we need to do. And it gives me the ability, and I think every leader needs to know this, like when you have a really good intentional schedule, it gives you the ability and freedom to say no. And that is liberating. I mean, there is no shortage of things that I get invited to, meetings that people want to take. And I don't tell them no in the sense like, no, I'm not coming. It's more of, man, I'd love to, but my schedule's already committed.
Yeah.
So that's the out that, and it's not it's kind, it lets them know I value you, but these times have been set aside. Now I have times for meetings, I have times for social events and all of that, but
he even has things like our date night is on this schedule. So if somebody asks us on a Friday night to go do something, we it's a reminder when you're looking at your calendar to see if you can be a part of it, but it's also blocks that out because it's a priority to us. And so it's really
Right.
Yeah. So
important.
sometimes we'll change our date night plans, or
Yeah.
sometimes we'll stick with them.
Yeah, but it
Probably stick with
definitely
them more
gives-
times than we change.
Exactly. But that's one
Right.
thing with Josh is that literally any time of the day you could ask me, what is Josh doing? And I could tell you, just because he's that predictable when it comes to his routine and schedule. So
Doesn't that sound fun?
I like predictable.
I'm a little
good
boring. Yeah.
with it.
Well, Amy mentioned in the intro that we've been able to watch you guys because your timeline of launching your church was the same as ours joining ARC. So we joined ARC in August of 2014. You guys launched in September. And I remember you being one of the first people I called. I called every church planner that launched.
I remember that
fall
conversation.
and asked them their story. And what I didn't tell you was I had no idea what I was doing. And by listening to you, I was going to learn how to advise future church planners because I had no
I didn't either.
context at the time.
Oh, that's fun.
And I called every church planner after launch day for a couple years. And finally, they asked me to stop doing that because it was taking too much time. So I guess at that point, I was like, all right, I'm actually valuable. They need me other places.
There you go.
But I remember looking at the sheet and, I saw, I think you had like 660 people on launch day. Do you remember the exact number?
I think it was 603.
Mhm.
Okay, 603. And I
Mhm.
thought, wow, this guy, he's figured something out and I might need to ask his advice. And so I called you. And even then, as you began to tell me how you made a guide for every position of every volunteer, so they knew exactly what to do, I'm like, okay, this is somebody that's thinking on a different level. So to me, it's very natural that you're doing Cadency now and helping pastors. And this is not a Cadency infomercial. Was not part of the agreement to get you on here to talk about this. But it does give us a good opportunity to like springboard into your leadership because you're putting it there in that program. But maybe bring us before Baytown, before Cadency. What was the journey to, for you guys, and maybe Kara, like what did you think whenever, this journey started to plant a church and you guys started out on that expedition of church planning?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we just celebrated 23 years of marriage in September. So our ministry journey started 23 years ago. We got married
2 weeks later.
Yeah, just within a few weeks, we were moving 600 miles away from home.
Wow.
We served in a little West Texas dusty town outside of Lubbock for 5 years. I did TV. We had a TV program, believe it or not, in a smaller church on a Fox affiliate there in Lubbock. We led the youth ministry. Back in the day, it was a 180 youth ministry, kind of taken out of the well, it was a franchise model of Willie George and what was going on in Church on the Move. And 5 years into that, we felt like we wanted to be just closer to home. We had our first son, and actually Kara had him. I guess I was a part of that to some degree, but I don't want to take too much credit there. And then we got word that there was an opportunity at a really great church down in South Texas. And in Victoria, we went there, served. It was a large church. I mean, we had never been in a setting. I'm talking probably 2,000 to 3,000 people. And but it was one of the best experiences of our lives. We got to serve some amazing pastors. We loved the church so much, we took the name and I asked permission. That's why we're Faith Family Church. But we started feeling probably year 8 and a half, like there was something that God was stirring in us, putting glass in our nest, so to speak. So I had met Rick Bizette at a youth camp I was speaking at up in Michigan, of all places. And we're on an elevator in this little lodge of a campground. And he had been a speaker there for years. And then Casey Hennigan, another ARC planter, was a speaker there. So they were doing they were having all the old speakers come in. I say old, former speakers. They aren't old. And then they were having the new guy. And I spoke there for probably 10 years after that, every summer. But we were all there. So we're in the elevator at the same time. And this is how the conversation went. Rick gets on the elevator and he said, he introduced himself and he started asking me questions about what I'm doing. And then he went to this part of the conversation, it kind of shifted. He said, "Hey, have you ever thought about planting a church?" And and I was like, "No, I ain't never thought about that." And he said, "Well, you'd probably be good at it." And he said, "Do you love God?" I was like, "Yes." He said, "Do you love your wife?" I was like, "Man, yeah." He said, "Are you cheating on her?" I said, "No, man, I'm not cheating on her." He says, "You're in, man. You're a church planter. You need to plant with Ark." So that was the criteria back however many years ago that was.
Similar today.
Yeah.
Yeah, similar.
You
We
love
asked
God, you
similar
love your wife,
questions,
or you cheating
actually.
on her? Yeah, you're in. So so that planted a seed. Little did I know, years later, I started thinking about that. Billy Hornsby had come into our church and had done some leadership training with our staff. And so when it was time to think about this, I told my pastor, and we had a great conversation. He was in on the conversation from day one. And he was like, "I don't want you to go, but whatever you do, wherever you go, we're going with you." So that gave me a lot of peace. He
that's
didn't push
awesome.
me out. He didn't release me. Well, just release you right now, brother, to do it. No, it was, "Hey, man, whatever, however long you think it's going to take, let's communicate, let's talk." So we went to ARC in 2013, October 2013, for our intensive.
Mhm.
And then we had to pick a city, so we had always kind of thought San Antonio, different places.
I was thinking Hawaii. I mean, there's lots of options.
Let's not limit God to the continental United States.
Right.
Yeah.
So after we had come back home where we are now, and this is where we're raised. So Kara's family's here, my family's here.
Mhm.
I started thinking, what if we planted a church here?
Mhm.
But then I was like, no, I don't know if I want to live there. I don't know. I don't know if I want to go back, because I wasn't the best kid in high school. I wasn't a bad kid, but I was like, I don't know if I want to be there. So I said to Kara, it was a Sunday. We were off on a Sunday. And I said, "I'm going to go to 3 churches this morning. You sleep in." And I had in my mind, I'm doing like a little experiment here. I'm kind of putting a fleece before the Lord, even though I know we don't need to do that, and now that we have the Holy Spirit within us. But I was like, I'm just going to go test this out and see if there's a church in town that would reach my friends from high school and is discipling people and has vision and is making a difference. So we went to 3 churches. I went to 3 churches that day. The first one I went into, I don't want to make fun of other churches, but I knew like this isn't the one, because there were parking lot attendants that were wearing like casino tuxedo vests, like bright purple. And I'm thinking, man, they're making
wow.
these men in blue collar Baytown wear a purple tuxedo vest.
95 degrees.
It
at
was
least.
100 degrees
Oh.
outside. I
Wow.
walk into the church and they knew I was new. I could tell they knew I was new because they had 2 bulletins. The lady at the door, sweet lady, older lady, she had a red one and a green one. Well, I'd seen her give a lot of people the red one, but then I came in, she handed me the green one. She did the old behind the back,
Yeah.
green one. She said, "I need you to fill this out." I said, "Okay." She said, "I need you to fill it out right now." And I said, like, right now, right now? She said, "Yeah, you can just stand right here." And I said, "I'm just going to take it to my chair. Is that okay?" And I didn't even wait for her answer. I just started walking in, and it was a good church. I mean, they love the Lord there, but I thought, my friends aren't coming here. They're not
Mhm.
coming here. I went to a couple others, and it just came back each time. Like, man, these are good people. But I'd been around what ARC was doing. I'd been in a life-giving church, and I'm thinking, man, there's so much potential in this area. So we settled on coming back.
Mhm. And at the time too, we had some family that were really going
Yeah.
through a difficult time. Like my sister was fighting alcoholism, and gosh, I mean, we were doing wellness checks on her, just hoping she was
Mhm.
alive, from one week to the next. And that was really hard. His brother was going through a divorce, and knowing that, we're 2.5 hours away trying to help, and like, okay, well, have you went to this church? Have you tried that? Trying to minister to them best we could, but just knowing that there was something missing,
Yeah. So
we felt like
and we honor all the
create-
churches, but
Yeah.
we're not we didn't come in with the attitude we're going to be the best, but we felt like there was an open door
Mhm.
and that God was leading us this way. So we came back, started having I don't know. I think we were some of the first that came through that started using that terminology, intrasocial, like
Yes.
in that strategy. So I didn't know really how to have one. I just said, let's go get some tamales from Irma's, because Irma's in Houston makes great tamales. And then someone made some amazing gourmet German chocolate cupcakes. That's what I remember from the night. And my cousin had a nice house, and he's like, hey, I talked to him. He's like, man, we want to help you. And he's like, you want to just have that over here? Just y'all use our house. So first time it was raining. I'm looking out the window every 5 minutes prior to start time, and 27 people showed up the first night,
Awesome.
and they just kept showing up and bringing their friends. So we had a little bit longer runway than we maybe encourage planters to run with now. I mean, I think we were in pre-launch phase with meeting
were
with
making
people
things up.
for 11 months. I mean, it was an extremely long runway.
Yeah.
But we just made the most of it and built a lot of community during that time. So
Yeah.
that's why we're here in Baytown. Now we've started another campus in Crosby, about 20 minutes away, because we needed room because of the growth that God's brought.
Yeah. And it's been great because, there's a lot of like refineries around this area, and like his dad has always worked at a refinery. Like we have brothers and sisters here.
We know the
just
people. These are our people.
We went to school with them, it just made sense to come home. So.
Yeah.
I'm here with Greg Daly from Parable. And Greg, one of the things I've learned through talking with you is that you not only help church planners, but you're able to help churches at all seasons. Can you tell us different times that churches come to you and get your help?
Yeah, we find churches come into us at a pain point, really. Like at the beginning, they don't really know what they're doing in the financial area, or they know they don't have time to do it. And we get to start with them and help them start off on the right path. And then we get them when they've been at church for a little while and they've had some great growth, and all of a sudden things are coming off the wheels because their growth has really outpaced the systems that were built. And they need to have a revamp. They need to have someone that's been there, that looks ahead, that can see around the corners that they're coming to before they get there, and build a system that will scale with them. And then the last size, that pain point that we get them is an established church that's maybe been around for a long time, maybe hasn't kept up with technology, and just wants to bring their systems up to modern day.
That's so good to hear. You can help a new church or any established church, no matter where they are in their growth journey. And Greg, I just want to thank you once again for being our sponsor this season for the podcast. If you want to find out more about Parable, you can go to liveyourparable.com, click the Let's Chat button. I'm so happy to be joined with Craig Krozik, the president of Live Design Group. Thank you, Craig, for being our headline sponsor this year on the Believe Again podcast. I wanted to ask you, what are some pain points that pastors might be going through that would indicate it's time for them to reach out to an architectural firm?
The biggest pain point is running out of children's space. When you run out of kids' space, you can't grow in the sanctuary, and those families start leaving and going somewhere else. So the first sign that you need a new space is when you have nowhere else to put the little kids.
That's a great point. You don't feel all the pain points at all the same time, but there's certain ones that'll cause a bottleneck for growth for the rest of your church. And I think you point out a great one there. Whether you're in a space that needs to be updated or have a vision for a new project to reach more people in your community, Live Design Group can help. To learn more about Live Design Group, visit livedesigngroup.com or email Craig at craig@livedesigngroup.com. We'll get back to the conversation in just a moment, but before we do, I want to tell you about a new tool that's helping more new people come to church for the first time than anything I've ever seen before. It's called Visit Planner, and Visit Planner uses targeted digital advertisement and powerful engagement software to help introduce your church to new people. You can find out more by scheduling a demo at visitplanner.church and use the code VP20 to get 20% off your first month. That's V as in visit, P as in planner.
Kara, was there, any moment in the story, where Josh is sharing, where Rick Bizet's asking him on an elevator, do you love your wife? You should plant a church. Is there any moment?
Did anybody ask you if you love Josh? That's what I want to know.
Are you
That's so funny.
But what I want to know, any moment in that story where Josh is coming to you saying, "Hey, have you ever heard of church planting? Should we start a church?" Where you're just like, "What in the world is he talking about? And what is he bringing to me?" Or was it an immediate like, "Yes, God's calling us to this"?
I do think the idea of church planting was more foreign. I really thought, I always knew he was going to be a lead pastor. I felt like God actually told me before even told him. Maybe
Wow.
he knew I needed to get prepared, as women were all about security and that kind of stuff.
Because I had no ambition to do that.
Yeah, he actually
I was
said,
very
Really?
content
Be
being
here.
a supportive guy on the staff. I mean, if I'd be a great like number 2 guy. I'm very loyal.
Yeah.
I mean,
I hear that from so many great leaders, and I just find it so hard to believe that someone that has such a drive and is such a A-type leader like you, that was really the case. So can you just unpack that a little bit? What does that mean to you that you were just totally happy there?
Well, I was finding a lot of fulfillment in serving my pastor's vision, and he had empowered me to help him do that. And I enjoyed it. I felt like, that I was given opportunity, I was being given responsibility, authority, and that I think what fed that drive in me was the vision itself. Like this church, we're doing something. And even in our first church, a small church, I mean, we had a big vision.
Mhm.
I mean, we had a big youth ministry for the size town we were in. And so we've been in these growth environments that fed that in me.
And I think there was also times where, like, by the end of our time in Victoria, I mean, it took several people just to replace Josh. Not bragging or anything, because that's probably
Thanks,
not
babe.
the best thing for a pastor to go through. But he just kept getting more and more, and so I think that more responsibility, and of course it was great training for us. But
Yeah.
also if you are just maybe a youth pastor, but you feel like more is in you, and you're not like on a lead team or something. I think that it's important to be able to grow no matter where you're at. And I think that there was levels that they allowed us to move into. So,
But Kara, going back to your,
Mhm.
I want to just say this about Kara. Kara's always been an encouragement to me. She's got the gift of faith and I think she truly has the gift of faith. She has the ability to believe God. I know she believes in me and supports me, because I mean, even before we launched on the night before, I'm apologizing to her, telling her, I can't believe I've done this.
Wow.
I mean, fear was like, it's kind of funny now, but it wasn't funny in the moment. I mean, I'm sitting there telling her things like, I'll go work at Walmart at night and stock shelves. I'll do whatever it takes I walked away from this good job, and no one's going to show up tomorrow. And we mentioned it a little bit ago. I mean, little did we know,
Wow.
603 people were making plans to join us the next morning. And I'm over
Yeah.
here trying to talk myself out of what God, spoke to me and led me to do. So she was always, very supportive, and that alone gave me courage in many ways.
yeah.
To like, okay, she's okay. All right, we're good.
And, like I said, I really thought that I didn't really understand church planning. So really thought maybe a church that the pastor was older was going to like hand it over to us or something. And then once we got into ARC and hearing it's easier to give birth and resurrect the dead. I remember y'all saying that. I don't know who, it might not have been ARC. I just remember that phrase. And so it really got us thinking about planting. And, we knew, hey, these guys are doing it the best. So, that's where that's
no doubt. I
who we
mean,
wanna
when
go
we were
with.
reaching out to, I looked at 2 other church planning organizations, and ARC was best hands down on the training and on the proven results.
But I always knew that he had that in him, because about 6 months before we even went to the ARC thing, or maybe it was a year, he was like, yeah, I could be here forever, whatever I need to do. And I just remember thinking, nope, that's not it. That's not what he's supposed to do. And not that I mean, I was working at the church. I was happy too, but I just knew God had a lot more in him to do and lead. And so, yeah, it's always been easy for me. I feel like it's important for your spouse to cheer you on, in life and all that. And so, yeah, I probably more than anything have actually pushed him to do things. Like even we built a church building and it was like, no, we could do this. We could do this. And, pushing the line a little bit.
What she means there, she's pushed the budget. That's what she means.
Yeah. Yes, come on.
We can do
So
this.
I was a cheerleader in high school. Maybe that's helped me serve me well.
Well, I can tell you had the most comfortable chairs I've ever sat in a church
Thank
service
you.
before. So
Hey,
Tara, you did a
the
great
details.
job.
She did, didn't she?
Those chairs, which means Josh, you have to preach a lot better to keep people from dozing off. So
That's right. Got to keep it interesting.
Just for the record, I had never done that in my life. Didn't know what I was doing. Most of our life, it's just the trusting God and saying, okay, I'm going to figure it out. And I've got some grit. That's really, we're not that talented. So even with that, I was like, oh, a church, I know what I want it to look like. I've got this, and then they started talking about dirt work and all this. And I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to be more than what I thought it was going to be. And so we've got, it turned out.
Here we are.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's one of the best buildings I've been in.
I mean, not many times you go to a church and you take pictures of the furniture because you want to use it for inspiration.
Hey,
for
I
your
knew
house.
what it had to look like for sure. I knew I had that one.
So you guys did that. And then, looking back at that class and all the amazing churches that ARC has planted since then, I think it's just been really special to see you guys be able to build a building. And to me, it's so significant. Building projects can sometimes drag on for years and there has to be so many compromises. But you guys have developed a world-class, first-class space that we were even able to host a launch training in. And, we're beginning to wrap up here, but that might not have even been that special to you guys. Maybe it was special to me that we were able to host a training in
over 100 potential church planners at that training event in your space. That was just amazing.
That was special for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, ARC is so much better because of you guys. And, we were great before, as you said, attracted a lot of great leaders, but we're even better now because of you, both of your investment in church planners. You've coached, you've taught, you've never stopped giving back to them. You've meant so much to me and Amy. I know if I have a question about something, I want to talk to someone outside of my local sphere of influence here and connections and relationships, I know that you're the person that I want to call and talk to. So
thanks.
Just honor you guys so much. And, as we begin to wrap up, maybe tell us what's something you're looking forward to, and then maybe just, end with some closing thoughts for the church planners and pastors listening.
Yeah. Well, I think on a personal level, I'm just loving I've kind of got to the point where I don't even like using this word because it's overused, but the season that we're in right now. As a family, our boys, we've got one he's a second year student at Highlands College, being trained for ministry. Our youngest is he's a junior in high school, and he feels called to ministry. So we didn't put that on our kids. And then if they'd have done anything else, we would have been as proud as we are that they want to do this. But it's like, man, God has been so good to us. Every promise that he's given us, it's coming to pass. I told someone recently, I feel like I'm living in a world of answered prayer right now. So that's exciting. And I'm grateful. I mean, I don't deserve any of this. I don't feel entitled to any of it. It's every day I drive onto this property, I'm just, it's like, God, thank you for allowing me to do this here. Thank you for using me. So I think just living with that sense of gratitude is something that I try to always keep. And I encourage other pastors and leaders to always always be grateful for what God has entrusted you with. I mean, there's no world that we live in where there isn't a list of things that we're all wanting to make better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got a list a mile long.
Yeah, we say that ministry is like juggling Jello. You get a hold of one piece and then it falls and you're like grabbing onto it. So there is always something we're trying to get better at and work on.
But when I say be grateful and then just settling in to a healthy rhythm for your life, I mean, that's something I feel like is really may become a life message for me to help leaders. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a counselor, but I know some good ones. And I have a good counselor. And learning how to manage your own soul in the midst of this thing called ministry, I think is one of the most needed skills that you must learn in order to be in it for the long haul. Because there are things in all of us that we don't even know are in there. And as the pressure of ministry, and there is a pressure, there is a weight to it. Those things start coming up. And if you deal with them proactively, you can grow through those seasons and through those weaknesses. And actually God will redeem that and turn it into something great. But if you're maybe a bit driven by numbers and some definition of success that is maybe not equivalent to God's definition of success, you'll find yourself in a place of burnout. That's dangerous, because if you burn out, a lot of people get hurt. So I just say, just learning how to enjoy your life, take the pressure off. And I know people probably say, well, that's easy. Now that you're at this level, you can say that. And there may be some truth to that. But if there's anything I look back on that, and if I could change anything, I probably would have enjoyed it a bit more, the journey getting here. Because there's so many like being in a high school, there's a lot of special moments in that. I mean, the way people served in the community we had, I mean, it's special now. I mean, I'm glad to be set free from the limitations of portable church, but just enjoy the journey. Be grateful for what God's given you. He allows us to do this. I mean, if you're paid to do ministry, wow. I mean, just think, if that's what your vocation is, I mean, what an incredible blessing. So there's a lot more good going on in your life than you may recognize, a lot more good than bad. And not trying to just be, an unrealistic optimist, but I think you need a little bit of that if you're going to make it in this world.
Yeah. And I would say that gratefulness is so important. That is definitely how we live, because, for us, keeping our head down and really, nobody knows what we're doing. And, if you look on social media and different things like that, you can start comparing yourself and get into a bad place. And I think for us, we've just kept our head down, done what God's called us to do in the place He's called us to do, and really, for us, kept our marriage really strong. That, I think, you lead out of the health of your marriage. And so for us, that's always been a big priority. And that's why we're able to lead together and work together, is because we have really, invested a lot there. And so I think just being grateful, knowing that it's a journey, knowing that this is God's church, that He's building it, that it's not all on you to do. And if you'll just obey and do what you can today, God will take care of the rest. So
it's great.
Well, that's amazing. I think that's not only some good words to end this episode, but this will wrap up our season. So I think you guys really knocked it out of the park on giving us some great content for everyone. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm very thankful for my special co-host.
Oh, I know. She's so pretty. Look at
Well,
you.
I had to jump on when Kara was joining. I was like, I can't resist that.
It's a lot more fun with you ladies here.
Here's the thing. I did ask before if they could edit, because me and Amy will be on the same call. We've behaved.
There's no need for parental,
I know. So
anything.
If you don't know Amy, you need to get to know Amy, because she is a party.
People really don't know Amy. That's the sad thing.
And I know she is my fun friend and is amazing, and I just love her. So
I love you.
Yeah, y'all were so good.
I love you too, Josh. But
y'all were really. This was rated G. I mean, and I think it had potential.
Part 2,
at least get
it will be
PG-13.
Wait for the director's cut.
Oh, watch out.
Well, thank you guys. Well, what a rich and insightful conversation we had with Pastors Josh and Kara Joins today. If you've been inspired by their journey and insights, you can stay connected with them and learn more about Faith Family Church in Baytown at myfaithfamily.org. And for those of you interested in elevating your game and life and leadership, check out Cadency Coaching. You can find out more about that program at cadency.org, and you can follow Josh and Kara on Instagram at Josh_joins and Kara_joins on Instagram. Amy, it's been such a joy having you on this episode.
Thank you for having me.
Do you think we could get you to come back?
Maybe, I guess. Depends on what incentive Maybe some candy as a snack while
Some
we
hot tamales?
film the episode.
Yeah, some candies. Well, we'd love to have you be the every week co-host on the Believe Again podcast next season if we can get you.
It's a little ambitious.
You can just carve a little time out of your schedule to be here. We'd love to have you. And I want to thank our sponsors. A huge shout out to Parable, who has been our title sponsor all year long. We cannot do this without Parable. Greg and the team has just been so amazing and supportive of this podcast. So please go find out more about Parable at liveyourparable.com. And then also another great sponsor is the Live Design Group. So what do you like about Live Design Group?
Well, I love the team at Live Design Group. So they do incredible work designing amazing spaces, amazing churches, and not just churches, but amazing spaces all over the country. But I really love the team and the people. I love Craig. I love Jenny Hester. Shout out to her and just their whole team. They are the most excellent, caring, creative team that you could ever hope to work with and have alongside as a partner in designing your dream space for your church.
Yeah, they're amazing. And you can find out more about them at livedesigngroup.com. And also, I forgot to mention this, when you go to liveyourparable.com, you can get 25% off your onboarding fees when you enter the promo code Believe Again. And we should have made a bigger deal about this on each episode, but they actually offer free accounting services for church planners. So if you're a church planner preparing to launch, you have not started your church yet, they will give you up to 9 months of free bookkeeping so that you can start off with good books. They do have an onboarding fee. They charge for that, but you can get 25% off with the code Believe Again. And I want to thank Yellow Box for all the design help they've done throughout the year for the podcast and creating the website for us. They've been amazing partners from the beginning. They're the ones that first came to us and said, hey, you should consider doing this podcast. So I'm very thankful for them. And lastly, I want to thank—
They're the best.
Yes.
They're the best.
Yeah, I'm a fan. So lastly, I want to thank all of our listeners that have been with us today. You've made this season very special. I've loved hearing from you. Thank you for liking the post, following us on Instagram, watching the YouTube videos. I hope you got a lot out of it. Your time and attention means so much to me. And we can't wait for you to join us next season for the Believe Again podcast powered by Parable. Until then, keep believing and leading strong.